Here's an interesting statistic. A buddy of mine recently had a kid, and he was going through that class that you have with your wife when you're getting ready to have a child, and the class had shared with him, and he shared with me, which blew my mind, changed the way I now handle my morning afternoon. Literally changed the way I live my mornings and afternoon. The statistic says that it was either 90 or 95. Let's just call it 90 because I can't remember for sure. 90% of your face-to-face interaction with your children happens from the time they're born till the time they are 18, right? Which is when they're living with you. And then once they finish graduating from high school at the age of 18, 17, 18, once they hit 18, on average, most of the face-to-face that's going to happen from there until the end of your life is only going to be 5% of their life, basically. So, or 10, excuse me, we're using the statistic of 90%. So once your child hits 18, you've already spent 90% of the time face-to-face that you're going to have with them. That means, they're going to go off to college. You're going to be able to talk to them on the phone, no question. There's FaceTime, on iPhones, and you can definitely have a face-to-face call now, thankfully to technology. But face-to-face, in presence, after 18, they go off to college, they end up, getting in a relationship, maybe work takes them to another city, and from that point on, your face-to-face is only going to be 10% of the rest of their life, which literally shocked me. See, and that statistic held true with me, basically. I graduated from high school at the age of 17. It was the summer. I think school ends in June, July. I can't remember when school ends for the summer, but I was 17 in June or July. In January, I turned 18 in July. So yeah, I think we graduated in June because I was 17 when I graduated from high school. So then a month after high school, I turned 18, and then that was July. 6 months later in January, my parents sent me to London, England to go to school. So I not only moved out of Salt Lake, I moved out of the country. And I lived in London for a year where I went to school. So already at 18, my face-to-face with my parents was no longer existent, right? I didn't come home for holidays. It was just too far. And so the whole year I stayed in London. And there was no FaceTime. In fact, it was collect calls. And back then, I would call my parents once a week. We had the tradition every Saturday I'd call my parents on a collect call. I don't remember the time. It was an evening time after I got home, after they got home. And that's when we would talk. We would talk every Saturday on the phone. And then they'd check up on me and see how I was doing. Well, then after I graduated from my education out in London, I did move back to Salt Lake, but only for a couple of months. Because then I moved to New York City, where I did live for 18 years. Of course, I now live back in Salt Lake City. But so for 19 years there, 1 year in London and 18 years in New York, I no longer had face-to-face contacts with my parents. Yeah, we spoke on the phone, but the face-to-face literally was gone. So when I learned that statistic from my buddy who shared with me that statistic when he was taking those classes because he's a new parent, it literally made me, at that time, I think my son was 2, he's now 4. I literally took the mornings and afternoons off to spend with my kids. Now, obviously, if I had a client that needed to address or go see a house or whatever, yeah, there were the exceptions to the rule. But because I had the flexibility to be able to do that, being in real estate, which is a very flexible career, I literally took mornings and afternoons off so I could spend with my kids. Right now I have a daughter who's 2. So every morning I'm the only dad at every swimming lesson, right? Occasionally there's a dad, but I'm the only dad that shows up for every swimming lessons. I'm the only dad at my son's MMA afternoon, Friday morning class, right? Like, I realize that my time with my children is so limited as far as face-to-face, so I want to be there with them. Now here's, the beautiful thing about the age they're at right now is they're not even in elementary school yet. So I get to spend the morning and afternoon with them. What's going to be obviously inevitable is next year he's going to go to kindergarten. He's going to turn 5 and he's going to go to kindergarten, and then first grade, second grade. Well, those mornings and afternoons will now be taken away from me, right? So I'm going to have to readjust. I'll have mornings and afternoons with my daughter that I can hang out with, but because she's only 2 right now, I'll have a couple more years with her, 2 to 3 more years. But I'm going to have to adjust again my schedule because I choose, my choice is to spend as much time with my children now knowing, and this literally was due to my friend telling me that 90% of your face-to-face with your children happens from the time they're born to the time they're 18. I literally now am choosing to adjust my schedule accordingly so that I can be with my kids as much as possible before they turn 18. So, you know, what is one of the things that I want to do before I die? Spend as much time with my children. So, what did I do? I obviously readjusted my schedule to make that happen, but the beautiful thing is we have that choice. Sometimes, again, going back to my buddy who says, like, I don't have the choice. I have to make money so that I can afford my house and afford my car. I can't quit my job. And then when we start dissecting, well, could you sell your house? Could you buy a less expensive house? Could you rent? Could you sell your car? Could you buy a less expensive car? You know, and he's like, yes, I could. Yes, I could. I said, so you do have the choice. Like, I guess I do have the choice. I just don't know if I want to take that. Just, you know, I don't know if I want to do that choice. And I'm like, well, yeah, well, you know, you have to outweigh the 2 consequences. You're either going to downsize, which might be uncomfortable, or you're going to have to be miserable Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, right? And so what's great, though, is that he now realizes, you know, through our conversation, going back and forth with each other, that there's hope. There's literally hope that he doesn't have to be at his job. You know, up until now, he felt trapped, like, this is it. This is forever. This is the rest of my life. He really felt that this is a no-choice option. But now he realizes, holy crap, there is a choice. I just have to make some sacrifices to make that particular thing happen. You know.